Hello there guys, welcome back to ShootOut, welcome back to a brand new video. This is a video that I think me and George didn't expect to make. We knew that there would obviously be content, but did not think that in the build up to the Premier League weekend, after putting the predictions video out, that this would happen and we'd be talking about the Super League. Now, it's the first time we're mentioning it on this channel. It's not the first time me and George have spoken about it individually, but together, it's the first time and it's on here. So, George, how are you feeling, firstly? And Super League is back.
Bro, first things first, so everybody knows, cheers to Christmas, by the way. I've just filmed the GBFC Christmas special. We had camera issues, but I've already gone through basically half an island's worth of beer. So I'm feeling great. If that's the way that you want to play the game of life, I'm feeling fantastic. I've had a few beers. I'm feeling good. And I think it's actually a nice way to have had a few beers and talk about the Super League contextually as a Chelsea fan. Because Chelsea have already made their statement. We have already kind of drawn the line under the idea of re-entering the Super League now that legalities are no longer the issue. And I think this is a really interesting topic to discuss because I'll tell you now, I had a vision of Todd Boy, right? Yesterday when the news dropped, I imagined Todd, wherever he is in the world, looking at it, and I'm thinking, this guy, right, is going to be sat there, he's going to be licking his lips because it wasn't his lawsuit that made the re-entrance of the Super League happen. It wasn't Todd Boehly being like, I want loads of money, let's make sure this comes back. It was all done externally from him. Chelsea weren't the ones going to court. All of a sudden, there is a potential to get an extra couple of $100 million a year in revenue from this Super League. But Chelsea were also one of the clubs from the UK, from the Premier League, who immediately said, no, we are not going to engage in this Super League. So he sat there thinking, blimey, we can either backtrack all of the things we've said and get all of these hundreds of millions, or we make a stand and don't go with the Super League. And Chelsea have already been the first Premier League club to come out and say, we are not engaging with the Super League. For me, I'm absolutely buzzing with it.
No, fair play. Then just to let you know, apparently they weren't the first. Man United were. Man City haven't actually done it. Well,
Man United aren't
statement.
super anyway, so it don't really matter. They're not the super club. So, of course they were the first. That's the only trophy they can get all season. We've won the non-Super League trophy, Manchester United.
You know what? You're right in the instance of that. The refusal. I personally think is a good thing. There's a debate as to now whether this whole thing is going to be good or not, because at the first instance with the first proposal, everyone was against it. And now I feel like there's more people open to it based on what we heard yesterday. But do you think, right, because there's already teams that have expressed their interest, even though before they expressed their rejection, do you think that the team saying no now will hold to that? Because I made it clear on my video yesterday that it's going to be down to the teams that simply just say no. And if there's going to be enough that say no and just take a stand and don't backtrack, as you mentioned, do you think there will be eventual backtracking? Because the A22 CEO came out yesterday after all the rejections and said, it's not a worry, because there's many teams that have actually expressed their support, but they're being threatened and they feel like they're scared. They don't want to express their public support yet, even though we know they are going to come on board eventually. What's your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are that the Super League, in whatever sense it's going to be existing, needs the Premier League massively. And I think there are certain clubs in the Premier League that will absolutely back the Super League, because they're not quite massive clubs in the Premier League yet. For example, Chelsea, we are in a position where European pedigree already exists. Manchester United, they have European pedigree. They don't necessarily need the Super League to expand their reach to the global market, which is basically what this thing is all about. We have to remember what the Super League is. The Super League fundamentally is a way to expand the footballing market above and beyond where we're already in the eyes of people. So in order to do that, and as a result of that, we make a lot more money. Clubs make a lot more money. It could be worth up to 300 million a year for Chelsea. But at the same time, the biggest part of all of this, which again, when it comes to the decision-making process, it's still the smallest thing, which is the fans' opinion. The way that the fans look at the Super League, react to the Super League, which is basically what makes football what it is, a spectacle. People are wholeheartedly against this whole project. But overall, it won't stop me or you tuning in. If Chelsea are playing Barcelona in Rio de Janeiro in 2026 on a random day in April, I'm watching. That's the truth. I'm still going to watch Chelsea play Real Madrid in a competition where we can lift a trophy regardless of whether it is a Super League or not. I can sit here and say that I'm boycotting the idea of the competition. I don't like it. I don't back it. But the fact of the matter is, I'm still watching. So in order for this Super League to happen, there needs to be millions upon millions of people like me. There needs to be millions upon millions of people who can be against it and turn up at Stamford Bridge at a protest. Credit to all of these people. But fact are, we're probably all going to watch. And if it's not all, it's going to be 80% plus of those people that turned up to the protests, which we think saved the Super League from happening. We're still going to watch Chelsea versus Real Madrid in Rio de Janeiro in front of 100,000 fans or whatever it is. And we're going to support Chelsea. So as a result of that, the money's still there. The potential's still there. The products that exists, it's just about ethics. Ethics don't really come into the equation, as we know. If we want to make this political, with big companies in the world right now, there is no such thing as ethics when it comes to hundreds of billions of revenue. So the likelihood is this is probably going to happen. Are Chelsea a part of it? I'm negatively attached to the idea of it, part one. I'm super negatively attached to the idea of Chelsea being in it, part two. But will I still watch it? Probably. That's the problem. That's the harsh reality.
It's honest, absolutely, and you're right. But this is what I want to ask, because the way that they've packaged this now, do you feel like, with the way that they said it's open, it won't interfere with domestic competition, it will be 3 divisions, Star, Gold and Blue. And whoever will be in it, and then there'll be promotion, relegation based on those divisions.
Bro, you just said it. You just said the point here, which is probably why Reece James is in hospital with a double hamstring surgery. Why half of the Chelsea squad are not fit. The people that are saying it's not going to interfere are not the ones running around being professionals, kicking footballs around and entertaining the masses. The people that are making these decisions to make this thing either exist or not exist are the people that simply have no idea how to kick footballs around the pitch. Because I think the average guy who is working on the legalities behind a Super League or not a Super League is the same bloke who grew up the same as you or I and said, well, I would love to be a professional footballer. I would love to play for Chelsea. All of a sudden, these footballers are being asked to do stupid amounts of work for stupid amounts of time, where basically they're making more money, but quintessentially, the sport is making more money and the bodies that are controlling it are making significantly more money in comparison to the wage increase of the players who are actually delivering the entertainment, which is what this is all about, entertainment. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. You've already got things that are already signed, sealed, delivered, such as a 36-team Champions League. There are now 10 group games instead of 6. That's 4 extra games a season for a Champions League player. You have now got a 32-team World Cup in the USA in 2025 or 2024, 2025, whatever it is, which is going to add no holiday for all of the Chelsea players, because we were the first team from Europe to qualify, and all of the players competing, they no longer have a 2024 or 25, whatever it is. What on earth, other than money, does this ever need to boil down to? There's no, in my head, there's no rationalization here about football. There's nothing. It's all about money. And to be quite honest, I don't care about money. Like, when I watch a video, which I'm not even a Man United fan, my granddad was a Man United fan. I watched back the tapes of the 99 because he made me watch it. And I'm like, this means so much. Why? because the European Cup has value. The European Cup is the
Yep.
heights in which you can achieve at a maximum. All of a sudden, in the name of making more cash, we are rewriting the history books of what football is on a untangible level. It's about the ideas. It's about what it does to the brain. It's about how we look and see these competitions and what they mean. So we're trying to like pedestal something that doesn't exist. With most fans don't like this flipping thing. Like, you can't tell me that this Super League is more valuable than that night in Munich, that night in Porto. Like, there's nothing that anybody in the world can say to me as a football fan who watches flipping League One when there's nothing else on TV. There is not a single thing that anyone can say to me that puts this Super League on any kind of pedestal. But your club might get £1 billion. Piss off, mate. You think I thought about how much money Chelsea made when we beat Bayern Munich in Munich? You think I cared about how much money was entered into our bank accounts and paid to us when we won against Man City in Porto? You think that's what I care about? Are you taking the piss? Are you literally taking the piss out of something that was once pig's bladders in a field between 22 men? Like, I didn't experience this. I didn't see this.
Yep.
But that's what I buy into. It's about me and you, who's going to win? One of us is, and we're going to feel some kind of ecstasy. This is going to make me feel great. This is going to make you feel bad, but you're going to come back again and try and feel what I feel now. And I'm going to try and hold that. This is what this is all about. And this is changing the whole dynamic, the whole DNA of what football is. And I hate every part of it. There isn't any kind of financial benefit you can say to me as a Chelsea fan that will make me feel better. I don't want to be 400 million quid richer than Nottingham Forest. And when I played them and I lose, now I feel even worse because we're supposedly richer. No. That's absolutely never going to be part of what I feel about football. None of this is about money to me. That's the problem. This whole thing is a joke.
But this is a difference because you see it from that lens, and it's a right lens as I feel as a football fan, right? But these people that not only are running these organisations, and we've got to be honest, UEFA included, FIFA included, they're all the same. But even the owners of the football clubs are looking at it from that lens. Not all, I would say, but you'll get most that are looking at it from a financial perspective. You get a few that understand that the money's coming in whether they like it or not, and they actually want to win. But you get owners as well that are looking at it primarily from a financial perspective. So this is why I ask, do you think that there will be teams that will just eventually, especially in England, because you made a good point, it's the English market that I feel like is the most attractive. If the Premier League teams move, this thing will happen. If they don't move, chances are this thing won't happen. So will they eventually jump ship, as you mentioned, because to try and balance Super League with domestic competition, even though now, if the teams were to take part in both, they know that as long as they've made it through the door into the Super League and they're in the first two divisions, there's not going to be any consequences based on their domestic positions, not any longer. You don't have to make top 4 anymore. You don't have to make top 6 to make Europa League. You don't have to do all of that, because if you're in there, you're in there and it's done, unless you get relegated from the bottom league, which you've got to be a small team for that to happen. So this is where, is that going to dilute the Premier League? Is that going to dilute domestic competition? That's what I feel many people are ignoring. What's your view on that?
I would say that the problem is more like that. What you just said is absolutely true. If Premier League clubs as a whole, and the Premier League have already said we're abstaining from the whole thing, we're not involved. If Premier League clubs turn an eye and say, we want to have the potential to be involved in this Super League, okay, cool. That is based on an idea that this separate entity where the rule book's pretty much not even wrote yet, there's not any definitives as to what this means. It's an invite-only competition. Juventus were in Serie B a few years ago. Why are they one of the founders of the Super League? They're one of the founders because they're one of the oldest, richest clubs. But what this says to me is heritage doesn't mean anything. Manchester United, I'm even as a Chelsea fan, I'll happily say as a fan of English football, they're the biggest club in England. They're currently not the biggest club in England based on what we watched tomorrow or yesterday or today, but they are the biggest club in England. So there is not any real attraction to looking at the historical sense of what the Super League means. The clubs that are going to say we're open to it, we're not against it, are the clubs that are basically like the ones that weren't invited to the house party, who are literally sat there in the garden outside begging to be invited when the party's already shut down. Do you know what I mean? This is literally about the popular kids getting more popular, the richest owners getting more rich, in the name of what? Knowing that what we said earlier, football is something that if Chelsea are playing, I'm going to watch. I'm going to tune in, or I'm going to fly there and go. Now I've given an airline money, a hotel money, food money. I'm going to do it because I love Chelsea as an entity. So therefore, I am part of the problem. I am one of the reasons why this is even an idea. I totally get it, but like, I'm not going to stop supporting Chelsea. I have to deal with things like the Super League. And all I can say is, it's a load of bollocks. It ruins what... Football to me is something that is like an existential thing beyond ourselves that allows us to collectively follow something bigger than our own lives. To add a different dynamic in it where that whole soul and passion and love falls out of the way as a result of simply benefiting those who don't really benefit me or interest me, just line the pockets of an already rich person or entity. It's a load of bollocks. And I'm sure the majority of people that live in Singapore, Dubai, Saudi Arabia, Riyadh, all of these places, they'll turn around and be like, look, I'm perfectly happy being a Liverpool or a Chelsea fan, watching on TV at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Why do I need to then worry about another competition where all of my heroes are getting injured, getting ACL injuries, like ruining their careers in the name of playing an additional 10 games a season? Like, you got to remember, the reason we love football is because we're entertained. These players ain't going to be able to play at the same level. We're not going to see Messi, Ronaldo, Neymar, Hazard remakes again, because these guys are going to be playing 80 games a season, not 60 at the pinnacle, the prime. They're going to be playing 80, 85 games. That's not possible. Yep. Clearly it's not possible. They couldn't even do 60. Look at the injuries now. The whole thing is a joke. And the way that like footballers are being punished as a result of all of this is that they can't keep up with the changes of the financial market and demand for football. And that's the hardest bit. Like, we as fans can have opinions and say like, oh, we don't want this, we don't want that. But like, the players are already struggling. Like, whatever we think about what being a professional footballer means, no, let's just paint the real picture here. They're already struggling and getting injured more than they ever did before. Now we're adding even more. Like, Reece James ain't out for 4 months if he's playing Super League. He's out for 8. Do you know what I mean? Well, like, everything is exponential in every single sense, in every direction. It's bollocks, mate.
Yeah, this is why I wanted to allude to this point, because you mentioned that. And if that's going to be the case, where balancing the two is going to be impossible. We heard yesterday that apparently the UK government are looking to possibly bring in a football regulator, bring in a governance bill that prevents Premier League teams from leaving the Premier League. And if they do end up leaving the Premier League, then they're going to be kicked out of English football altogether. That's something that is an idea at the moment, but this is what it's alluding to. Do you think that it will, even on top of that, due to injuries and probably balancing the two, will end up being impossible eventually? Do you think that teams will be forced to make that choice? And do you reckon they'll not even hesitate? They'll be like, okay, screw, we'll bounce, see you later. And for that reason, they'll end up playing maybe less games. They'll have less problems. They'll get more money. And it won't just be a case of playing home and away anymore. Do you think it will turn into a thing where games are taking place at this part of the globe, games in, like, I don't know, in LA, then a game's in Dubai, then a game is in Singapore, then a game is in London? Do you think that is what it will turn into, even though that's not what is being advertised at the moment?
I mean, I think it's all a mess. Like, there's all, if you want to really break it down, there's also an argument where companies like Sky shouldn't publish Chelsea fans protesting and football clubs like not back in the Super League, because at the end of the day, if there was a Super League, companies like Sky will make more money. Like, there's absolute big levels to all of this in terms of like everybody other than the fan and the players profits from a Super League. It's not about where the business is and where it should be directed. It's simply about protecting the heritage of the sport. Absolutely 100%. It's about protecting what football is. The European Cup is the European Cup because teams from Europe compete against one another within Europe, and we almost like draw out of a hat a city from within Europe, Istanbul, Paris, Madrid, London, and we play there at the final in that year. But if it's Galatasaray versus Bratislava, they're still playing in London at the end of 2024. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
and it's just, you could even, and again, this is just because I was making a podcast where I was drinking beforehand, and this is kind of the conversation that if you ever meet me in a pub, bring this one up. You could even drag this into religion. You could make this about religion. I talk about football as if it's a religion. If anybody comes into my life who doesn't like football, I talk about football so that they can understand about a religion, about a non-negotiable thing that I believe in that is just characteristically me, that they either they understand the embodiment in which I have or they don't. Not a problem either way. That's what it is. So in this case, it's kind of like, at this point, you're trying to eradicate everything and make everything about economics, which belittles everything from the past. At which point, you could attribute and compare all of the things that we think about football, Super Leagues, Champions Leagues, Premier Leagues. You could then start talking about war. You could then start talking about everything else. Football is a religion. Football is something that unites so many people to a point where things like this, you ask me how many times in a week do I want to watch Chelsea? I would love to watch Chelsea every day. It's about the ethics in which I do that. Why do I want to watch Chelsea every day? Because I'm excited about it. Why do I also understand that on a Thursday and I have to wait till a Saturday, do I like it that much? Because I know that I have to wait till the weekend. This is heritage. This is what football is all about. When you get excited on a Thursday afternoon or a Thursday evening because it's closer to Chelsea playing than it is far away. That's what football is all about.
Do you think the Super League wrecks that?
The Super League absolutely wrecks that. It totally wrecks that because there's not any anticipation. There's no build-up. There's nothing to wait for. There's nothing to be. Like, at the end of the day, people in England already get pissed off about the Carabao Cup. They think it's a waste of time. They think it's unnecessary. What you're doing now is you're basically adding an additional Carabao Cup that no one gives a shit about, that we are being told we have to care about, but because it's a Super League and it's worth hundreds of millions, what that immediately does is make it seem more important than the Carabao Cup, but the fact of the matter is it's not. The reason why people literally cry with ecstasy when Chelsea win the FA Cup is because of history. It's because of heritage. We know that the Champions League is the biggest, the be-all and end-all. So we lose our minds when we win that. When you win the Premier League, it is you are the best team in this whole patriotic country after 38 matches. The FA Cup is now considered the lowest. The Carabao Cup is kind of like all right, well, you want to argue this? Like, you add another Super League into this in the name of money? Like, what are we even cheering for anymore? I feel like that's my rant over, mate, to be honest. I feel like I've just been waffling here. But, like, I back everything I said, to be honest. I love what I've just said. But, like, no, I don't flipping want this bollocks. I don't want to be anywhere near it. I don't want to tune in. I will. I know it. But I don't want it. I'm out. I've got that. I feel like I've said everything. Please. Sorry.
Hey, fair play.
I'm gonna get my Christmas hat. I'm gonna pull over and get my Christmas hat.
No, you know what?
Because right now, I'm a very happy boy.
This proposal that was put forward, right, as divided opinion, because unlike the first time, it's not so extreme, and you get a lot of people now that are leaning more in favour of it because of what the initial proposal gives, but what the repercussions are going to be from it is unknown. And in my opinion, in George's opinion, clearly it's still very negative, and we feel like it will divert to to its original intention that it was in the first place. So what it does for the pyramid, what it does for the lower teams, what it does for the heritage of the competitions we are already in, Champions League included. There is one final thing before we end. UEFA apparently are looking to scrap the new model that was meant to be implemented next year because of the Super League's proposal yesterday, and to try and win people back on side. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that's the ultimate winner?
That, you know what? When people say that's prime Barclays, if UEFA did that and they just kept everything that we've grown up and knew, that is prime football. Do you know what I mean? Like, that is prime football. We don't need an extra 4 teams, but then, like, it's an extra 4 teams, but we're secretly adding an extra 4 games to every club's schedule. Like, stop it. You know what I mean? Like, there's only 36, not 32. Cool. There's an extra 4 teams that are in the Champions League. Every team has to play an extra 4 games. Bollocks, mate. Everybody who's in the Champions League, even Karabag, when they're coming to Stamford Bridge, and even Zappacosta's whipping in goals from 40 yards. Karabag loved it. They wanted to be there. They were happy that they were there. It goes down in their history. Bollocks. Stop changing shit. Stop adding all of this unnecessary things that we just simply don't need in the name of making money, that makes people that love football like me and you sit here in front of cameras and say, just don't do it. Like, I don't want to beg the authorities to be like, can we just keep football the way it is? No, we there's already enough money in it. It can expand in different ways. We don't just need to add and dilute the history and the heritage, which makes things what they are. Done. I'm out.
Spot on.
Happy Christmas, everybody.
Yep. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below on this whole thing, and we'll see where it goes, because there's been a lot of rejection so far. There's a few approvals, but it's clearly not enough. We'll see where it's all going to lead to, but I feel like there's been good points made. Let us know yours in the comments. And George, much appreciated. Any final words?
I need to go to bed.
I think we all do. All right. In a bit, people. See you soon. Take care and peace.